You're running a lunchbox shop, and that's beneath our family's status. You're an embarrassment, so you won't be attending the wedding. These harsh words struck me during a family meeting about my son's upcoming marriage to the CEO's daughter. My late husband Joseph's cherished shop was dismissed with disdain, and I was told I was unwelcome at my own son's wedding. The pain was unbearable. But for my son's sake, I felt I had no choice. I can't jeopardize his future happiness because of me. I want nothing more than for him to be happy. So with a heavy heart, I agreed to their demands. But then something unexpected happened. An unexpected guest arrived, leaving the other parents visibly shaken. "Richard, take care of Mom for me," Joseph had whispered with a smile as he took his last breath. I thought we had so much more time together. We had promised to bring joy to others through our cooking. Growing up, my parents were always busy, so I naturally took on the task of making dinner. I'd cook, wrap up the leftovers, and head to bed. In the morning, the dishes were always cleaned, and there'd be a thank you note waiting for me. I wanted to make my parents happy, which is what led me to cooking. Joseph, with his passion and dream of owning a restaurant, drew me in. His enthusiasm was infectious, and soon we started dating. Cooking for Joseph, who aspired to be a chef, was both exciting and nerve-wracking. Then one day he said, "Nancy, let's open a shop together. Your cooking has the magic to make people smile, and I'm one of them. Let's make people smile together." Remembering my past efforts to bring joy to my parents, I agreed, and together, Joseph and I opened a warm and inviting lunchbox shop. I handled the mornings, and Joseph took care of the evenings. Joseph always made a point to say, "Thank you" after meals. Gratitude needs to be expressed, a phrase that still echoes in my mind. After Richard was born, life became challenging yet fulfilling. Joseph passed away before he could realize his dream, and I did my best to hide my sorrow from Richard as he grew up. He turned out to be a kind and thoughtful child, helping around the house and showing a love for cooking, just like his father. When he got his first job, he prepared a special meal to thank me. Even after he moved out, he still visited me occasionally, always checking in. Recently, Richard mentioned he'd be cooking another special meal. "What's the occasion?" I asked, curious, as such meals had become rare since he started working. As we sat down to enjoy his delicious cooking, Richard shared some news. "Mom, I'm marrying Patricia." I knew Patricia as his warm-hearted coworker, and I thought they made a wonderful pair. "That's wonderful. Make her happy, okay?" I told him. "Of course," he replied. "And Mom, I might become the next CEO." It turned out Patricia was the daughter of the CEO at Richard's company, and they were impressed with his work, even considering him as a future leader. When I heard this, I was surprised but deeply proud. As I prepared to visit Patricia's family before the wedding, I found myself reflecting on my life. William and Elizabeth Smith greeted us warmly, with nothing but praise for Richard. The dining table was laden with various dishes, and a private chef was busy in the kitchen. Richard is truly exceptional, both in his work and as a person. "We trust him with the future of the company," William said. "We always believed Richard and Patricia were a perfect match." We cried tears of joy when we heard they were getting married. "We're excited for the future," Richard, a bit shy, firmly declared. "I will build a happy home with Patricia." Patricia and Richard then left the room, smiling playfully, to prepare something for us. I felt a deep sense of pride and warmth. But as soon as they left, Elizabeth's tone shifted. "So, Nancy, when are you planning to quit that lunchbox shop of yours?" The question caught me off guard. "Quit? I never said I was quitting," I responded. "Well, it's not exactly a lucrative business. Why keep running such a small lunchbox shop?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That lunchbox shop? Why are you saying this?" "That shop is precious to me and my late husband Joseph." Elizabeth's expression hardened. "It's not like you're offering anything special. The Smith family runs a major corporation with hundreds of employees. Your small-town lunchbox shop doesn't match our status. We were fine with Richard, but we can't accept that his family runs such a modest business. We assumed you were planning to quit, which is why we moved forward with the wedding plans." I was stunned. The words didn't seem real, or maybe I simply didn't want to believe them. Was my shop really the reason Richard might not be able to marry? How could the scale of our business impact my son's marriage? It's a significant difference, objectively speaking. Elizabeth is right. How can we tell people that the family of our future CEO runs an outdated lunchbox shop? William added, Don't belittle it just because it's a lunchbox shop, I retorted, my voice trembling with emotion. But Elizabeth just snorted and delivered the final blow. Enough. You're an embarrassment to our family with that lunchbox shop. You won't be attending the wedding, not just the wedding. If you keep running the shop, we'll cut ties with Richard as well. Do you intend to hold him back? Their words pierced my heart. I was overwhelmed by a mix of emptiness and anger. I had been so happy that Richard was finding his own happiness. He's my pride and joy. Please let me see him get married, even if it's from the shadows. The words tumbled out of my mouth, even though I could hardly believe I was saying them. Why should I have to watch my son's wedding from the shadows? But my brain was reeling, and I couldn't keep up with my own thoughts. I'm sorry, but even if you were in the shadows, Richard and Patricia might still notice something. We'll just say you had an emergency and couldn't attend. At that moment, I heard Richard and Patricia's voices as they returned to the room. He'll be back soon. If I just give in to William and Elizabeth's demands, these two can live happily. If I can just endure this, everything will work out, right? If I just, Nancy, what do you think? All right, sorry for the wait. Here's a gift from us to the three of you. Oh, what a relief. You two prepared such a wonderful gift. I'm so happy. Thank you. I didn't expect something so thoughtful. Elizabeth received a music box, President William got whiskey, and I was given an apron. Patricia explained, we thought you might like the apron since you're always cooking such delicious meals at the shop. We weren't sure if you'd enjoy it. Ah, thank you. I'll cherish it, I replied, though tears began to well up in my eyes. Mom, why are you crying so much? Richard asked, surprised but with a warm smile. This apron will be my last memory, I thought, as I etched the smiles of Richard and Patricia deeply into my heart. Be happy, I wished them silently. On the day of the wedding, I found myself sitting on the living room floor, still in my pajamas, unable even to muster the energy to turn on the lights. My phone was filled with missed calls from Richard and Patricia. Since that day, I hadn't known how to interact with Richard, who was so excited about the wedding. All I could offer him were cliché words, while I clutched the apron they had given me, celebrating their union alone, tears streaming down my face. The next day, I was startled awake by the persistent ringing of the doorbell. I knew instantly that it was Richard, and indeed, there he was, with Patricia. On the first day of their new life together, they had come all the way to my house. As soon as I opened the door, Richard, unable to hide his anxiety, blurted out, Mom, what happened? We were worried because we knew you wouldn't forget the wedding. Why didn't you come? Nancy, was it something I did? Their faces were pale, a stark contrast to the joy they should have been feeling. I hadn't expected to face them like this the day after their wedding. Mom, please, I need to know, Richard pleaded. Seeing their concerned expressions, I knew I couldn't sugarcoat the truth. Let's talk. Come in. I invited them inside and told them everything that President William and Elizabeth had said to me when they stepped out. I hesitated, wondering if I should reveal it all. But I couldn't hold back. As I spoke, Richard's face gradually tensed up, while Patricia seemed utterly shocked. What is this? How could they say such terrible things to you, Nancy? This is unbelievable. Tears welled up in Patricia's eyes, a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief written all over her face. Nancy, I don't know how to apologize for my parents. I'm so sorry, Patricia said, her voice heavy with guilt. Stop it, Patricia. You've done nothing wrong. I'm sorry for causing you pain the day after your wedding, I replied gently. Mom, thank you for telling us. Richard spoke calmly, his voice filled with resolve. After a while, Patricia left my home. The next day, the doorbell rang again. Could it be Richard? I opened the door to find President William and Elizabeth standing there, their faces contorted with anger. What have you done? Enough of your games, they shouted, their fury barely contained. I remained emotionless, absorbing their outbursts. What's the matter? You come here shouting and disturbing the neighbors, I said, my voice steady. Disturbing? We're not worried about the neighbors. You've ruined everything. It seems like you're the ones who've ruined things, I replied calmly. What are you talking about? You must have filled Patricia and Richard's heads with nonsense. Richard even handed in his resignation. And now Patricia is talking about cutting ties with us. You orchestrated this, didn't you? I hadn't asked for any of this, nor had I orchestrated anything. Richard's determined look now made sense. And while I felt a sense of relief, I was also uncertain about how to navigate the situation. I decided to tell them the truth. Don't accuse me of manipulating them. I believe they made their own decisions, I said. Stop playing games, Elizabeth snapped. I'd like to say the same to you, I responded, holding my ground. What is this? Are you trying to ruin our company? President Williams shouted, his face flushed with anger. Just then, a sleek black luxury car pulled up in front of the house. The door opened, and we all gasped as Richard stepped out, followed by Patricia, and then an elderly gentleman. Nancy, long time no see. I apologize for the recent rudeness, the elderly man said, his tone calm yet commanding. Dad, why are you here? Do you know this person? President Williams stammered, visibly shaken. Don't ask so many questions. Nancy's father is a successful businessman who runs multiple companies. We owe him a great deal. Nancy is also involved in the business as an executive. Didn't you know that? The elderly man replied. It was David Smith, President Williams' father and Patricia's grandfather, currently serving as the chairman of the company. I had met him at board meetings at my father's company, but it had been a while. President William paled at David's words, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. You can't be serious. You don't even know the management of your business partners. Shame on you. And yet you have the audacity to talk about cutting ties and barring someone from attending their own son's wedding. That's utterly disrespectful. David's words echoed through the room, cutting through the tension like a knife. His reprimand wasn't just directed at William and Elizabeth. It involved me, Richard, and Patricia. The shock and despair on William and Elizabeth's faces were unmistakable. A week later, I found myself at a board meeting at my father's company where I ran into President William. He gave me a brief nod and quickly moved away, clearly trying to avoid any interaction. As I watched him walk away, I made up my mind. For the sake of Richard and Patricia, things couldn't stay like this. After the meeting, I caught up with President William as he was hurrying out. President William, we're hosting a small celebration at my shop this weekend for my son's wedding. Would you like to join us? I asked, my tone inviting. Well, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to. Please don't say that. It's a good opportunity to mend fences. We had some issues at the wedding, but why not start fresh? I suggested. Why would you want that after everything that happened? He asked, clearly taken aback. I was hurt, yes, but Patricia was the first to apologize. I want those two to be happy, and I think you do too. We both share that wish, don't we? Will you join us? After a moment of hesitation, President William nodded. I'm truly sorry. I'll join the celebration, he agreed, his voice sincere. On the day of the event, when President William and Elizabeth walked into my lunch shop, Richard and Patricia immediately stood up, ready to say something, but I stepped forward to greet them first. Thank you for coming today. It's a bit cramped since we set up the dining area where we usually display the lunch boxes, but let's enjoy ourselves, I said warmly. What's the meaning of this? Patricia asked, glaring at her parents. Patricia, I invited them. We can't continue like this. We can't forget what happened at the wedding. But we can make better memories moving forward. And remember, you can't just sever ties with family, I said gently. I have a request as well, I added, turning to Elizabeth. Thank you for raising Patricia to be such a wonderful person. Elizabeth looked at me, her expression filled with regret. I said such terrible things. It's because Patricia, who met Richard, is truly wonderful. I learned from Joseph that gratitude should always be expressed, I said, smiling at the woman who would soon be part of my extended family. It took time, but eventually, the tension between the newlyweds and their parents eased. Now we gather for a meal together once a month, sharing stories and laughter. Elizabeth has even started buying lunch boxes for my shop. Today, as always, I greet her wearing the apron that Richard and Patricia gave me. Welcome, everyone. Let's bring smiles through cooking.